And the U.S. Coast Guard also seized more than $130 million in illicit drugs as part of an operation in the Eastern Pacific region to counter cartels and criminal groups. Joining us for Insight is Brent Sadler, Senior Research Fellow for Naval Warfare at the Heritage Foundation. Great to see you again this morning, Brent. What kind of resources and cooperation does it really take to bring in a haul like that?
Well, interdictions at sea are very complex and challenging to do peacefully, which is one of the reasons why you're starting to see with the frustration and the fact that it has not been effective for decades in really putting these drug cartels out of business, that you're seeing these lethal attacks. Again, another discussion, but definitely justified on numerous fronts. It requires definitely good, clear intelligence. There's decades and much understanding of these cartels and the networks, perhaps in many cases knowing the individuals by their names, but also very familiar with many of the individual boats that you're seeing get attacked or even interdicted. This is how long this has been going on, this cat and mouse game. The other is to have boarding teams. This is where it gets very dangerous. If you're going to try to board one of these craft, it's dangerous just to physically do it, let alone if you've got someone on the other vessel that's armed or doesn't want you to get on board and attacks you as you're trying to come on board safely and then to apprehend them and shut the boat down. So very challenging, very dangerous, even requires a high level of insight for those attacks as well.
And what does that take? What happens next to the vessel and to the people on board if it is apprehended?
Well, if you actually attack the vessel, again, something that we're seeing increasingly since September of last year, you don't have to worry about the drugs because it goes to the bottom of the ocean. But if you actually apprehend it, there's questions about how the handling of the narcotics. And some of this is several tons, billions of dollars that are apprehended, which was just recently in early January, $1 billion of cocaine seized in Fiji. Another almost just shy of $1 billion was seized in French Polynesia in the Pacific from these same drug cartels. What happens to all that other drugs is it should be destroyed by the law enforcement agencies of the country in which the arrests were made. But again, that a lot of that could, through corruption, other is suspect of finding its way back into the marketplace. But again, best thing is to destroy it at sea.
Now, I've heard quite a bit of concern about the lives that are lost through these attacks. You mentioned it has been typically quite difficult to combat this kind of crime in less violent ways. And yet, with the intelligence being hidden from the public, we do need to just go on the trust that it really is confirmed that these are narco-terrorists, and it's worth taking somebody's life there to intercept that kind of crime that will kill many more people across the U.S. What do you think, if anything, that the government could do to help reassure people that their intelligence is indeed strong enough to go forward with their actions?
Well, one of the great strengths of American democracy is that we should always, and the citizens should always, demand transparency and accountability of government, even on this issue, which in my estimation has a lot of national security foundations for why it is the right thing to do. And I think even there's a very strong legal case to be made for it. So clearly, hearings in Congress, many of those have been closed because of sensitivity to the intelligence involved. But I think continuing, the administration needs to make its case to the public and in a very public and very open manner. I think that needs to continue to be pressed for. But I certainly don't see any slowing down or halting of these operations because the cartels are very violent. They are very dangerous. They are already here in the United States, and many of these, like Tren de Aragua, with the backing of governments, the former government, Maduro in Venezuela, was supporting them here in America, intimidating and killing law enforcement and anyone in the United States that got in the way of this illicit poisonous trade that's killed well over 100,000 Americans for several years running during the Biden administration.
And what would you say is perhaps the biggest legal question surrounding these actions and your position in terms of, you've said that there is a strong legal case for it?
Yeah, so the debates on this, one is it an act of war? And I think that is not germane to this issue. You're talking about criminal activity on the high seas. One is it, and the other part of it is these are not nation states. These are not flagged vessels, or they are questionable of having any national flag. And this goes into the other discussion about the tankers. that are also being seized, but just focusing in on the drug boats. The next thing is if they're not going to stop for boarding and for flag verification, even in international law, the U.S. military is authorized to be able to use lethal force. This goes back to the conduct back in the day of going after slave trade, as well as going after pirates. It's the same legal construct, same customary precedent, but there's a lot of debate of whether in this modern era that still applies. And I think it'd be good to see this go to a court. And I think that would actually, the counter argument would probably lose.
Just in the last 30 seconds we have, Brent, anything more you think the administration could do to combat this issue?
Well, I think on a military side, I mean, we are now going aggressively after the cartels. It needs to expand as they try to find new markets. Those two interdictions in Fiji and in French Polynesia is an indication that they're trying to make up for lost market share in the United States because of the interdictions that are occurring in the Caribbean and the Eastern Pacific. So broaden the reach, deepen the attacks.
Great to hear from you this morning, Brent Sadler. Thanks again for coming on.
Thank you.